Hello, my name is Kurt from LaPlante Home Services, and I would like to sort of just walk you through some knowledge regarding PFAS in drinking water. Uh, Plan to discuss what some of the numbers mean and what are acceptable levels and non acceptable levels for human beings. Um, Most of you may be here because you are aware of it, or maybe it has been identified in your water source or in your town or area. And our goal tonight is really just to provide some clarity and some options around this problem. We're not here to pressure anyone, but just to explain the facts and let you know that we are here should you have any further questions or want to look at options for mitigating moving forward. And really, most people just want to get a good understanding of what this actually means for them in their home. So we'll just go ahead and dive into this. We'll start right at the beginning and give an understanding of what PFAS actually is. And these are a class of man-made substances called per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And they're used in many products that we come in contact with every day. Most commonly that people would be aware of are things like nonstick coatings on pans like Teflon, or coatings that are like inside microwave popcorn is one of them. It's also used in firefighter foam and other chemicals that are out there in the world, and these are summed up by the term forever chemicals. And the reason why they're called that is they are extremely stable molecules or compounds where it's very difficult to separate the components, and that's how you break down chemicals. You have to literally break the bonds between the atoms. So um, they were designed to last a long time, and therefore they don't break down in the environment, in the water. And it's very difficult to remove them, but they're also very damaging to us as human beings. Um, Starting to become more of an issue because now they're starting to test water supplies for these chemicals as they've been identified. Um, is there an acceptable level of PFAS? Science says no, that any detectable amount is not good for human beings. And the requirements will vary by state. The state of Maine, for example, has a guideline of 20 parts per trillion. Other states will regulate that independently, and the EPA has now set a limit of 4 parts per trillion. And any public water supply needs to attain that by about 2029. I'm sure there's some variance in that, but that's the guideline that we're working with, right? So, you know, this is a issue that is really there, and it's not going to go away. I live in New Hampshire, and there's an area that was contaminated by an industrial company, and the water is really problematic. They have done some mitigation, but in my opinion, it's not quite enough. If we look at the standards a little bit deeper, the EPA standard, as I said, is 4 parts per trillion. Now that's like a drop in an Olympic-sized pool. So you're talking essentially nothing, and most groundwater contaminations that you would come across would be at a higher level than that. So really, the question becomes, how do you clean your water and make sure that your family is protected? Now, these chemicals are linked to things like kidney cancer, other like lymphomas. A lot of those long-term, really devastating conditions and diseases are attributed to this. The area that I just recently mentioned here in southern New Hampshire, we have a noticeable increase in kidney cancer since this contamination was identified. So it's a true problem. It's here, and it's not really going to be going away anytime soon. And the best course of action is to take control of your own water supply. Just to drive the point home a little bit, science really says 0 parts per trillion is the limit. And the EPA, and as we know, most regulations, they have to kind of balance the pros and cons. So 4 parts per trillion is where they're leaning as an acceptable limit. This is obviously a personal decision, but the reality is probably getting this figure as low as possible is the absolute best way to go. So what does it mean for homeowners? This is an example of a town called Hallowell up in Maine, and they are noticing increasing levels in their public water supply. Recently, a few months ago, the limit was 20.1. It was detected at 20.1 parts per trillion, so just over the Maine limit. A more recent test had showed that level is 30.8 parts per trillion, which is clearly above all of the guidelines. And they're not going to have a solution in place for quite some time. And this is a story that's being told in many public water sources where it's being detected. And because this is such a problematic chemical, the only real way to get it out is through a carbon filtration soaking method. You have to let the molecules, kind of get pulled out of the water. And we'll go into that a little bit deeper coming up. But that's a viable solution that you can do in your home. So we talk about some available options. The easiest, and this is only really when you think about drinking water, would be bottled water. A point of use filter, that'd be limited to a tap, like an RO filter that you would have underneath the sink. Now, both of these solutions have their own drawbacks. For example, bottled water, you have a cost, you got to go get it. Then you've got to store it, so you're taking up space in your house. And then you might be dealing with now microplastics, which is another emerging problem with all of these plastics. These are found to be carcinogen as well. They affect our cells. So, okay, let's go to a filtration solution. Let's get an RO unit underneath the sink. RO stands for reverse osmosis, which essentially is a series of carbon filters that will then pull some of that contaminant out. The only problem with this is that you're only treating your drinking water. Great first step. However, that's not doing anything with, the water you wash with, you brush your teeth with in the bathroom, taking a shower with. That water aerosolizes in the steam, can get into your lungs. So it's not really solving the problem. And then a whole home filtration system would really be the highest level of protection. And then that starts where the water enters your home and then treats everything that's going to touch all of your appliances or yourself or your family. So the option that we have here at LaPlante Home Services is called the Infinity Protector. This is produced by a company called WaterTech, and this is actually certified to reduce the PFAS contamination by 90%. So if you're in an area, say like Hallowell, you're talking about taking your 30 parts per trillion down to about 3 parts per trillion. So you're now below the EPA limit. Add in the RO for your drinking water, and now you've got a significant reduction, probably as close to zero as you could possibly get. We don't just say you get to zero because things can change, but that's going to get your water to a level that would be generally considered safe for human consumption. And then, of course, you have professional installation from LaPlante, and we offer the additional replacing of the carbon filter. And essentially, that's what the Infinity Protector is. It's a giant sleeve of carbon, which then acts as sort of like a parking lot, if you want to think that every carbon molecule has a space to peel away that PFAS molecule and store it, and then it gets removed out of your home when that filter is changed. The filtration process, pretty simple. The water will enter your home. We hit it first with a sediment filter that just improves the efficiency of anything downstream from there. And then we have the Infinity Protector, that's the carbon filter. And then we have the RO to polish the water there at the end and make it ultimately as clean as it possibly can be. The installation process, very straightforward. Our comfort advisors would do an assessment at your house, determine the right solution, depending on if you have additional contaminants in the water you want to take care of. This is sort of what we would consider like the highest end arrangement. Here's your sediment filter. This Reionator Pro Ultra is a water softener. It also will handle, it's got a carbon filter in there. It's got a couple of different resins, so that will help pull out anything like arsenic, um, soften the water, deal with iron. And then that has its salt brine backwash to clean all that out. And then you have the Infinity Protector to peel out any remaining contaminants, chlorine, chloramines, PFAS, anything else will get picked up in that Infinity Protector. And then you then could have the RO unit underneath the sink. So what's the cost for all of this? Essentially, you have two choices if you're in an area that's really contaminated with PFAS, like Hallowell in this example. You could keep going and getting water downtown. They have a spigot people can go to, or you could get bottled water, or you do a one-time investment and install the Infinity Protector. We have financing options as well. So one time, deal with it. Yeah, you have normal maintenance and upkeep, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about this anymore moving forward. Most people are actually surprised by how affordable the systems are, and they end up saving money depending on how much they're spending on bottled water or other inconveniences in regards to clean drinking water. So why the whole home solution? I mean, we just talked about it. You have clean water at every tap. You don't have to worry about the kids accidentally swallowing water, from the bathroom. You don't have to worry about, the pets or anything like that. You don't have to worry about having a singular tap that you can drink out of and use. You've got your whole entire house protected. And then, we'll install it professionally, make sure everything's up and running, and you have our long-term support. Been in business 50 years, so we will be here to keep you in that peace of mind. What happens next? If you're interested in taking a look at this, you can schedule a no-pressure evaluation with Carson and Derek in the office. If you have a well and you're concerned about this, we can do well water testing. There is an upfront cost in that. It's a very comprehensive test. And then if you move forward with the system, then that just gets credited to that install. But for well, we have to do some significant testing to make sure that we design the right system so that all the resins and everything work the way they're supposed to and don't get chewed up prematurely. Those resins are really self-regenerating. They last forever as long as we design the system correctly. So it's very necessary step for well water. So just reach out to Carson and Derek and you can get started. Ask any additional questions that you might have. And we are here for you as your homeownership partner and hope you find the answers you're looking for in regards to water filtration and PFAS.